America this week is one for the history books. The president and first lady continue their recovery from the coronavirus. And Mike Pence and joining me now is the White House Deputy Communications Director and Deputy Press Secretary. America this week is one for the history books. The president and first lady continue their recovery from the coronavirus. And Mike Pence and Kamala Harris face off in the only vice presidential debate. I'm talking with the White House Deputy Communications Director and Deputy Press Secretary Brian Morgenstern.
We offered $1.6 trillion. She decided zero is better than $1.6 trillion.
Jason Miller, senior advisor for the Trump-Pence 2020 campaign, is also here.
And it was a pretty stark reminder that you can do everything right. You can have people around you tested. You can socially distance. You can wash your hands, use hand sanitizer. And guess what? You can still get it.
And she's the chair of the Republican National Committee and, like the president, is recovering from COVID-19. I'm talking with Ronna McDaniel. That and so much more right now on America This Week. Welcome to America This Week, and what a week it is again. 2020 continues to live up to its reputation. The president, first lady, and others in the White House and Congress test positive for the coronavirus. And the nation watches as Vice President Mike Pence and Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Kamala Harris take the debate stage. Oh, and the election, less than a month away. I'll be here to bring you whatever else 2020 throws our way, the good, the bad, the unbelievable, and the undeniable. The saying goes, once is chance, twice is coincidence, three times is a pattern. In writing, we tend to use the rule of three for dramatic effect. The founders used the rule of three in the Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Teachers use the rule of three to help school kids remember things like stop, drop, and roll. Even politicians use the rule of three. Biden's campaign slogan is Build Back Better, and Trump went with Keep America Great. There's the Three Musketeers. Moe, Larry, and Curly were the Three Stooges. Personally, I'm Team Curly, not Team Shemp. There are three branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. Christians believe the Holy Trinity is comprised of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. There are threes all over the place. Again, once is chance, twice is coincidence, three times is a pattern. So what would you call five times? Scientists have a term for something that happens over and over and over again. It's called a super pattern. Many people noticed a comment Joe Biden made recently, a comment that really didn't call for specificity of race.
The reason I was able to stay sequestered in my home is because some black woman was able to stack the grocery shelf.
Some said it was racially insensitive to highlight the women's race. After all, people of all races work in grocery stores, presumably stocking shelves. Okay, maybe a slip of tongue. Again, once is chance. But what about when Joe Biden said this about the Latino community being more diverse than the black community?
And by the way, what you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African-American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
Twice coincidence, perhaps. Or perhaps not, because here's example 3.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking.
Example 4.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Example 5, and possibly the worst example of racial insensitivity.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
At some point, people have to stop covering for this man. Once is chance, 3's a pattern, 5's a situation. No, not that situation, a situation. Hey, Joe, I just thought of another 3 in popular culture. From baseball, a game I used to know pretty well. 3 strikes, you're out. But 5, even liberal umpires can't give 5 strikes a pass. I'm going to have to ring you up. You're out. Joining me now is a guy who posted that first clip of Biden on Twitter. He's the author of Always a Soldier and host of the Rob Smith is Problematic podcast, Rob Smith. So, Rob, what did I get wrong? Do you agree or disagree?
Look, I think you got it exactly right. So here's the thing. I don't think that it would be disingenuous to say that Joe Biden is some frothing at the mouth racist. What is more accurate is to say is that he has a history of these racial gaffes, and he engages in what I like to call the soft bigotry of low expectations. Whereas with Joe Biden and a lot of people on the left, the way that they have been trained to see African Americans is as grocery workers, as lower income people. He said poor kids are just as bright and talented as white kids. So this is the way that he has been trained to see African Americans in his 47 years in public office. And apparently he's the person that's supposed to come fix racism and lead us to this promised land of racial reconciliation. And I think that with these comments, the biggest point that I can make is that the media lets him get away with this over and over and over again. And Eric, you and I both know if President Trump had said anything that was even close to any of those clips and those sound bites, that it would be nonstop news for weeks.
So, and I went back and I actually had to edit some because there were so many, honestly. And at one point I played the soundbite of him talking about you can't go into a convenience store without speaking or running into someone or speaking with an Indian dialect. I mean, is it just he's an old guy? Is it just he's an old curmudgeon-y guy and we can write it off that way? Or is there something more deep-seated going on?
I think there is something deeper. So that's a part of it, right? The fact that he's a little bit older, he's used to things being a certain way. But I think a deeper aspect of this is that the left only tries to talk to African Americans in this way. What I like about what Republicans are doing right now, and what I like about what the president is doing, is that he wants to talk to people about bottom line stuff. This is how we're going to create jobs. This is how we're going to lift everybody else up. And the left just doesn't know how to talk to African Americans in this way. And I like the language of the right now that is about, don't listen to so much what we say. We're going to show you what we have done. And this is the way that President Trump has reached out to the African American community. And I think that that's why he's making so many inroads there, particularly among African American men.
About 30 seconds left, Rob. A lot of people are pointing to President Trump and his Charlottesville comment. Do you think President Trump has any racial insensitivity in him?
I don't. I've interacted with the president multiple times. I don't get that from him at all. And the last thing that I want to say is that the Charlottesville comment is a lie. I am tired of the media running away with that lie because it has been debunked so many times, the Very Fine People smear. So anybody that is watching, do your research. The Very Fine People smear is a lie, and we need to stop spreading it out.
All right, Rob Smith, we're going to say thank you very much. Don't forget the podcast is Rob Smith is Problematic. Rob, we'll talk to you again soon, my friend.
All right, thanks a lot.
And joining me now is the White House Deputy Communications Director and Deputy Press Secretary Brian Morgenstern. Brian, thank you for joining us. So, a lot of people have been speculating on this because, Stephen Miller, high profile, caught COVID-19, Kayleigh McEnany, and others. What is the White House mask policy right now? Optional, non? Tell us about it.
So we have signs saying, masks required to go in. We are wearing our masks when we cannot socially distance. In most of our meetings, we try to put chairs between one another so we're not getting up into each other's personal space, of course. And, we're taking precautions. We have hand sanitizer everywhere. The White House cleaning staff does an amazing job. They do deep cleans daily in the residence and in the West Wing. And we're, carrying on with the people's business. And as positive tests are identified, those folks go isolate, they quarantine, they behave consistent with our CDC guidance. And the rest of us who continue to test negative, we're able to work remotely if we need to. If there are instances where we should be in the office for particular meetings or discussions, we do that. We just do it in a safe way. We have masks, we have hand sanitizer, we're able to separate from one another and stay out of each other's personal space. So we're just carrying on the people's business. We're just doing it in a safe way.
So, Brian, I've been there and I've taken the test because I was going to speak to the president. I was going to be in contact. You take the test. A few minutes later, you find out if you're negative. Obviously, you're negative, and you go meet with the president. There's a lot of people in the briefing room, a lot of press who are complaining. One guy even went so far as to say he felt safer in Afghanistan, covering the war in Afghanistan, than he did covering the president in the briefing room. What do you say to those people?
I think it was North Korea, actually.
Okay.
Somebody said he felt safer covering North Korea than he did being at the White House. I'm sorry this is happening to you. I mean, give me a break. I mean, look, they frequently wear masks and they take precautions just as we do, but we have to carry on with our business. And, that kind of over-the-top fear-mongering is not good for anybody. The country, our heart goes out to families who've experienced loss because of this virus. No one wanted it to come over here from China. The president certainly never wanted to get sick. We don't want to see any families suffering. But we have to open our country. We have to open our churches, our schools, our businesses. We can just do it in a safe way. And the virus is nowhere near what it was in terms of posing risks today as it was a few months ago. And it's because of the president's leadership with Operation Warp Speed that we have treatments that have dramatically reduced mortality rates, dramatically reduced hospitalization rates. And many patients across this country are getting treatments like dexamethasone, like remdesivir, like some of these drugs that the president has been treated with, and it dramatically reduces the course of the illness and the severity of the illness so that we can continue to go about our lives by while protecting vulnerable populations and just using smart common sense. So, fear-mongering, stuff like that is just totally unhelpful. I would add, by the way, many on the press staff have now tested positive. Some journalists in the press pool who always wear masks have also tested positive. We don't want anyone to be sick. But for anyone to then blame someone else for the transmission, we don't know where it came from. Frankly, we're not interested in identifying any kind of patient zero. That's unhelpful. We want to mitigate further spread, and we want to mitigate risk. And that's what we've been doing so that our country can reopen.
Brian, a lot of people have asked what was the last negative COVID test for President Trump, and there seems to be, I don't know, I don't think anyone's actually ever said it. Is there, do we know, do you know when the last negative COVID test for President was?
I don't. It's a fair question, but look, we work with the facts we've got, and we've gone back, and there's a timeline we've been able to discuss, which is we know Hope Hicks had a positive test Thursday. Late that night, the president announced very promptly his positive test, and those folks immediately, started going into quarantine and being treated and went about their business. Contact tracing happens at the White House Medical Unit with the CDC. We have an epidemiologist embedded in the White House Medical Unit, and they do contact tracing. And Eric, it's a really important point, because I think sort of some facts get lost in this conversation. We just need to refocus on, here's how it works. Contact tracing, you have a positive case identified, either symptoms or a test, and then the medical professional handling that case looks back 48 hours. They identify anyone who may have been a close contact. That's someone who could have been within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes. They consider that that person may have been exposed. They contact that person. That person then sort of assesses the situation. They consider they monitor their symptoms, and we go from there, and we try to prevent further risk. That's how it works, and that's what we're doing.
Brian, just before we let you go, less than a minute or so, and I know this is a big topic, but just about a minute or so, can you just give us the status of the relief bill? At one point, President said, let's pull back from negotiating with the Democrats, and then he corrected and said, no, let's push forward with something more, Republican. Where do we stand?
Yeah, Eric, it's a great question. I mean, we know there are Americans out there still suffering. They need support. The Republicans have always been in favor of measures that will directly address problems affecting people. We've proposed standalone bills for the airline industry because we don't want those workers to be laid off. We've proposed PPP to keep small business employees connected to their jobs. We've proposed economic impact payments, those stimulus checks, money for opening schools so parents can stop doing double duty. These are things that everyone agrees on. The Speaker has so far refused to really negotiate in good faith. We offered $1.6 trillion. She decided zero is better than 1.6 trillion because she wants all these funds to go to blue states who maybe have not managed their budgets well, funds that have nothing to do with the coronavirus. So she's trying to exploit the situation here. The president doesn't want to stand for that, but he will still, in good faith, discuss some of these measures, these targeted measures that will actually really help people. Our economy is doing very well, but these things can still help.
All right, Brian, we're going to leave it right there. Brian Morgenstern, by the way, she said 2.4 trillion or nothing, take it or leave it. Wow. We used to talk in billions or hundreds of billions. Now we're talking trillions. It's getting crazy out there. Brian Morgenstern, thank you for your time. This week, Joe Biden said that if the president still has coronavirus, there shouldn't be a presidential debate next week. Jason Miller is a senior advisor for the Trump-Pence 2020 campaign. Jason, thank you for being here. Where do we stand on whether or not we will see President Trump versus Vice President Biden next week on the stage?
Absolutely. And Eric, thank you so much for having me on. Good to see the show getting going with such great success and big ratings. So congrats to you. Look, we're going to have a debate. I know Sleepy Joe might not like that. He might be looking for his friends in liberal media to hide him and protect him and come up with answers for why he can't get out there. But Joe Biden's going to have to get out there and defend his liberal ideas. And I think we're going to see Joe Biden on the ropes here trying to defend his plans to raise taxes, increase regulations, all of that. And so we're looking forward to charging ahead, and Joe Biden's going to have to stand and deliver here.
Jason, what do you think? I mean, clearly law and order is your wheelhouse this election cycle, but COVID-19 will be the left. What do you think Biden's going to come at the president in that debate with the COVID? He's going to probably point some fingers that maybe he shouldn't have left Walter Reed on the timing he did. How is the president? Is he healthy? Is he ready to debate? Is he ready to tackle the campaign?
President will definitely be ready. We'll obviously have full clearance from all of the doctors for everything that the president does going forward. I think Joe Biden runs a real risk here. I think if he comes at the president at too much of a personal level, if he starts attacking, then I think that's going to look really insensitive, especially with President Trump being cleared and ready to go here. I think there's something, Eric, when we talk about President Trump's experience, how he has now gone through battling COVID. He knows what people have been through who've suffered through this virus. He knows how important it is to get that care. I think you're going to hear the president talk quite a bit about what we're doing to make sure that seniors are taken care of, and also how we're putting our most vulnerable at the front of the line to get this vaccine.
So for me, Jason, and again, I get it. I'm on board. I understand where the president's been with masks. I've been wearing masks for the better part of 2 years on airplanes. He got COVID, okay? He didn't think he got COVID. On the backside of that, as he comes back out and tackles the campaign trail for the next 2-3 weeks until the election, is it going to be more of a mea culpa, more of a humbling experience for him, or is he going to go right back, where he was prior to getting COVID, saying, it's not that bad? What do you think?
Well, I think number one thing, and again, this was going back to last weekend when I talked to the president when he was at Walter Reed, and he told me two important things. Number one, we're going to defeat this virus. We're going to defeat it, not just myself, but as a country, and then even as this campaign, we're going to defeat this virus. But then he also said, be careful. And it was a pretty stark reminder that you can do everything right. You can have people around you tested. You can socially distance. You can wash your hands, use hand sanitizer. And guess what? You can still get it. I mean, Eric, this is something that's personal to me. I'm very fortunate to have not gotten COVID. But you look in that debate room where myself and Mayor Giuliani are the only two people who did not get COVID in that debate prep room. And so this is something everyone who was in that room had been tested. We were distanced, all the things that you're supposed to do. So there's a lot about this virus we don't know. I think the president is humbled in knowing what it's like to go through this at a personal level. It's not fun, I can tell you that. He's had some pretty direct conversations with me about how not fun it is exactly. But he's also said, look, we can't stay in our basements for the rest of our lives. We have to go defeat this. Let's get the vaccine. People want to get back to life. They want to get back to life as normal. We have to help them get there. Take care of our most vulnerable. Those are critical points.
Jason, less than a minute or so, just a lot of people are pointing the finger at the announcement for Amy Coney Barrett as the event that probably caused a lot of the spreading of this latest round of COVID-19 throughout the White House. Other people are saying it was the debate prep room. What do you think? And how do you, boy, I don't know. Just give me a sense of what the feeling, the mentality is, the atmosphere in the White House, knowing so many people have gotten it. Stephen Miller recently this week.
Well, as far as where exactly it came from, I mean, I can't speak to that. I don't really want to speculate. Obviously, I was around a couple of the events, but not others. But also, it just wouldn't be appropriate for me to go and speculate the exact point who may exactly possibly would have come from. But look, I think the people in the White House are very resilient. This is a White House that's gone through quite a bit. You talk about the entire last 6 or 7 months. We talk about the impeachment hoax. We talk about the Russia hoax. I mean, it has been attack after attack nonstop against this White House since President Trump came in. And heck, you look at the poor folks like Scavino, who haven't even had Dan Scavino haven't had a break going back for years now. 2016 was quite a roller coaster. So we've been through some of these battles. We've come out on top. And I think that's because we have the president at the front.
Jason Miller, I'll give our audience a quick refresher. 4 years ago, about this week, we were in the hallway in Fox News, and you turned to me and said, the president's he's going to win Michigan, Wisconsin. I said, wait. I said, what? And he said he's going to win. I said, Jason, I can't imagine that. And guess what, folks? Jason was right. Jason Miller, everybody, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Eric.
She's the chair of the Republican National Committee and, like the president, is recovering from COVID-19. Ronna McDaniel, welcome back. And hope you feel well. Can you tell us what you've been through the last few days?
Well, great to be with you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I got diagnosed, and I will tell you it wiped me out, but I'm on the mend and having a lot more energy, and just very thankful and appreciative, not only for the thoughts of prayers for my friends and family, but also that our president is doing well, and really thinking about all the Americans who are dealing with this, and continuing to have them in my thoughts and prayers.
Well, let's say, a lot of people don't exactly know. Just tell us what you've been through. I mean, first of all, do you know where do you think you contacted it?
Yeah, I had a family member who tested positive. I had been quarantining away from them, but I came home and within a couple days started feeling sick. So I skipped the debate and took precautions and got a positive test and, quarantined. And I have asthma, so it did knock me out a little bit, a lot of exhaustion and just monitoring my breathing and in consultation with my doctor, but feeling really good right now. So that's a good thing, and very lucky to be on the mend, and obviously thinking about those who haven't been so fortunate, but and continuing to work hard to make sure I stay that way.
Speaking of others who have it, President Trump is recovering as well. Any thoughts on his recovery or what you're hearing?
Yeah, I talked to him today. He sounds great. What's so amazing about the president is the drugs that he has taken, remdesivir and the steroid that he's taken, are available to the public because of Warp Speed, the Operation Warp Speed, to make sure that we brought in the private sector quickly to get these therapeutics up and running. It helped him. It is available to the American people. And these are the types of decisive decisions that he made early on that is helping us come out of COVID that really he isn't given enough credit for.
Ronna, the way it works, and maybe our audience doesn't know, but the way it works is the RNC teams up with the campaign for the final push into the election. What do you think this did to the president's odds and chances of winning in November?
Well, certainly we're talking about COVID right now. And I think the president needs to talk to the American people about what he has done to ramp up testing, to get us on track to get a vaccine, to do what he's done with the therapeutics. We need to revisit all that he's accomplished in this short period of time with the best minds, and making sure that we're attacking this virus. And then we can pivot to what he's going to do for the next 4 years. But I do think he needs to once again address all that he has done, because he hasn't been given enough credit in less than a year what we have done to combat a virus that we'd never seen before. Joe Biden had no plan, and we really need to communicate that once again to the American people, how well this administration has handled this.
All right, she's the RNC Chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel. Thanks for joining us again. Feel better.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Next on America This Week, host of the Michael Knowles Show, Michael Knowles is back. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. And less than a month from Election Day, and we still haven't heard from the Biden-Harris campaign. Every week we offer them or a representative a chance to come on this show, and every week we get no response. Our offer still stands, but the clock is ticking.
America, one nation, from Florida to St. Louis to Seattle. America This Week, America's fastest growing political show, delivers facts, not falsehoods.
Well, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I appreciate the opportunity to clear some of it up.
Hard-edged opinions.
We can no longer rely on China to be the primary producer of so many critical products that we need in a time of crisis.
Tough topic debates.
Has the mainstream media vetted Joe Biden the way they vetted others on the right?
I just believe that all women have the right to speak their truth, and that those truths should also be investigated. The end, regardless of what political party they are a part of.
America This Week reveals the topics and issues that pulse throughout America. Fighting COVID-19.
We're working with every single state to be able to detect outbreaks before they spread into the community.
And the path forward.
Getting back to some degree of normality, that will come. We will get over this.
America This Week investigates chaos at the southern border.
Go, 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 go.
The poisoning of America.
It's in the soils, it's in the water, and it's in our blood.
Toxic chemicals linked to multiple cancers found in towns across America.
We were poisoned, and we are still poisoned.
Almost every day, There is a new community that is finding out that their water is contaminated.
America This Week relentlessly seeks the truth on your behalf.
I'm Eric Bolling. Join me for a fascinating look at America This Week. He's the host of the Michael Knowles Show with the Daily Wire and co-host of The Verdict with Ted Cruz podcast. Michael Knowles, great to have you back, my friend. Let's start with some news this week. The McCloskeys from St. Louis, they got indicted. They got indicted, not the protesters, not the people who were storming their house. They got indicted. Your thoughts?
Well, we're living in an upside-down world. We're living in a world where you're not permitted to go to church, but you are encouraged to go loot and riot. You're living in a world where you're allowed to trespass on other people's property so long as you have the right political beliefs, with guns, with weapons, but you're not allowed to defend your life and your property with guns and with weapons. And as you probably suspect, this all has to do with the election. I have to tell you, the silver lining in all of this is obviously a horrible injustice against the McCloskeys. But the silver lining is we have a clear choice in November. The lines are very clear. Do you want to be on the side of law and order? Do you want to be on the side of your constitutional rights? Do you want to be on the side of protecting your country? Or do you want to be on the side of looting, burning, trespassing, and disrespecting the American flag? That's the choice in November, and I know which side I'm on.
You know, if Joe Biden does eventually win, I'm going to go out and buy stock in every single arms manufacturer in the world, because we're going to all have to buy and own more guns. If we don't, I have two, I'll get more because I don't want that taken away. Is there any question that the Second Amendment will be under fire, so to speak, if Joe Biden does win?
Well, they've been talking about this for years. I mean, the entire Democratic establishment, they were furious at the Supreme Court's decision in Heller, which reaffirmed the individual right to keep and bear arms. They've been passing extraordinarily punitive anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment legislation for years, especially in my state of California. And so there's no question that they're going to come after the Second Amendment. There's no question that they're going to come after the First Amendment, try to curtail your political rights. They've been talking about that since at least 2016, since at least the decision in Citizens United. They're coming after all of these things. And so I think that's also why the central issue in this campaign has become, as it was in 2016, the Supreme Court vacancy. It's another reason why it's very important that the president get Judge Barrett confirmed before the election, because this next 4 years, you're going to have more vacancies, whether by choice or by age. And that is going to, even beyond legislation, shape the way that our constitutional rights will reign for the next generation.
You know, Michael, earlier this week, there was a NBC town hall with Joe Biden, and it was called a town hall with undecided voters. Turns out some of the people who stood up and were undecided voters a little more than a month ago, 6 weeks ago, were on MSNBC being very pro-Joe Biden in another televised event. What are your thoughts on NBC and MSNBC using these tactics to, I don't know, make it appear that people are deciding to go to Joe?
Well, this is the same kind of tactic you see used in the polls. You know, in the national election polls, you see people say, Joe Biden's so far ahead. He's 14 points ahead. There's no reason to even go out and vote Republicans. You're already toast. What's funny about that poll that came out recently in October that said that Biden is so far ahead, 14 points, is that there's another poll that came out on October 10th of 2016 that showed that Hillary Clinton was 14 points ahead. And you know how that election turned out. They're trying to use this illusion of undecided voters to swing the election, but these are Biden voters. The good news, though, for conservatives on undecided voters, on independent voters, is that the issues polls are very much in our favor. So there's a recent poll on school choice. It shows that over 70% of Americans in some places support school choice. That is something that Trump is for. That's something that Biden is explicitly against. On immigration, polls have shown for years now that the majority of Americans want to dramatically reduce levels of immigration, not because they're bigots, just because this is the largest movement of human beings in human history, in recorded history. That's a great point for Donald Trump. And then, of course, this issue at that town hall on abortion. Joe Biden came out explicitly and he said if Roe v. Wade were to be overturned, he would pass it through legislation, make it the law of the land. This is a contentious issue. It's about 50-50 in the country. I don't think that's going to help him among undecided voters in Pennsylvania. in Michigan, in North Carolina. And so on those issues, I would not believe the allegedly undecided voters in the national polls from the media, because they are trying to put the finger on the scales for Biden.
Mike, I got about 30 seconds. I got to keep you to time here. There's a hard break coming up. But you're moving from California to Tennessee. Tell us about that move and why.
We're moving out of here because you can't do business in California anymore. It's not even just conservatives, although, of course, they're tougher on conservatives. But you see Elon Musk moving out. You see Joe Rogan moving out. It's not possible. Bad governance has consequences. Maybe not in the short term. Maybe the left has gotten decades in California to ruin it. But ultimately, we can't keep paying for this awful abuse of government, these punitive taxes, this terrible government. We're going to Tennessee.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Michael Knowles, always good to have you. We'll have you back again as we get closer to the election. Michael Knowles Show on the Daily Wire. Mike, thank you.
Good to see you, Eric. Thanks.
Coming up on America This Week, it's their one shot to show the nation what they're made of. Our panel discusses the vice presidential debate next. And whether you're left or right, there is one thing we can all get behind, and that's the fight against the deadly opioid epidemic. Drug cartels continue to bring this poison across our borders. And I'm taking you to the front lines. I've gone to the southern border and showed you how these criminals try to bring these drugs into our country, even using underground tunnels. I've been given exclusive access to a U.S. drug offload where over $500 million of cocaine seized from drug cartels was brought to port in San Diego. And I've gone inside the U.S. mail facility in Miami where canine Border Patrol agents hunt for coke, meth, and fentanyl. All of this is to stop illegal and deadly drugs from getting into our communities and killing our kids. The good news, you can help in this fight. Donate now to the Eric Chase Foundation. That's ericchasefoundation.org, and help save lives. Every week, I'll give the top donors a signed copy of my book, Wake Up America. Thanks so much to everyone that's donated so far. We can help defeat this crisis together.
United we stand, we never fall. This perilous fight, it takes one and all. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time.
We stand, America.
United we stand.
We stand, America.
United we stand. Ready to help, ready to serve. It takes everyone with steady nerves. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time.
We stand, America.
United we stand.
We stand, America strong.
City by city, state by state, town by town, stand American great. Everyone stands American strong. When strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time.
We stand, America.
United we stand.
We stand, America.
United we stand.
Tonight, Vice President Mike Pence and Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Kamala Harris will face off in their only debate before Election Day. Let's bring in our special panel, University of Maryland lecturer Dr. Jason Nichols, First Amendment attorney Shelby Emmett, Sinclair political commentator Amisha Cross, and member of the President's National Security Education Board, host of America First on Salem Radio, and Sinclair media contributor Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Let's start with the newbie to the panel this week. Shelby, what are you looking for? What do you think? I mean, clearly COVID is going to be the topic du jour, but what are you looking for between these two? What's your really number one topic that you want to hear?
I definitely want to see some civility, for sure, but I want to hear more about their positions moving forward on free speech issues. We've had a couple executive orders from the administration around campus speech specifically, and Harris does not have that great of a record on association issues on the First Amendment. I'm just interested to hear more about how they plan on protecting these liberties, but also just conducting themselves like adults, because their behavior absolutely does have an impact on the rest of the nation. And it can't be much worse than what it was for the first round.
And Jason, I'm guessing it won't be any worse, but probably a lot more civil between these two versus the front runner, the presidential top of the ticket. Some would say that there's a chance that either one of these two could end up being a president if elected, their tickets elected, 2, 3, 4 years down the road.
Yeah, no, I think that's very right. And this is probably the most consequential vice presidential debate that we've ever seen. We have two men who are running for president, both, debatably have some health issues. We know that Donald Trump is 74. He's obese. So, anything could happen. Of course, we know that Joe Biden is 78, I believe. And he also, is an older gentleman. So this is a really important debate, and I think you're going to see a lot more civility. I actually think that this could be a good day for Republicans. This will be the best probably debate that they will have of the four that we will see, because of the fact that I believe that Pence is guided by Judeo-Christian evangelical morals. I think he's not irascible and crass like the president, and I think that he could actually reach some of those undecided voters, particularly women in the suburbs. He can make a lot of what the president says and stands for a lot more digestible. So I think it's important for Kamala Harris to be effectively aggressive, but also be very empathetic, not necessarily speak directly to Mike Pence all the time, but speak directly to the American people.
All right, what do you say, Sebastian? What's the go-to here if you're Team Trump and Pence? What are you trying to get out of this debate?
Well, I think compared to the first one, hopefully the Democrat candidate won't tell her jousting partner to shut up, call them a liar or a clown, because if there's anybody who's irascible, it was Joe Biden. I think it's going to be tough for Kamala Harris. Why? She utterly failed amongst the Democrat candidates. She had to drop out almost first because she was incredibly unpopular. No Democrats wanted her to be the presidential nominee. And also, Eric, she hasn't debated a Republican. She's debated fellow Democrats and lost and had to drop out. So this is when she's going up against an incredibly steady, an incredibly measured politician, a former governor, a vice president, who is the head of the coronavirus task force. So I don't envy her because I'll tell you something, Mike Pence is a past master and he's not going to fall into any trap of insults like Biden tried on the president.
Amisha, which Kamala Harris do you think we'll see? Will we see the one who is on Senate Judiciary giving Brett Kavanaugh a very, very rough go? Or, as Saturday Night Live would call her, Mamala Harris, and maybe reach out and try and get that suburban, I don't know, female family vote?
That's a good question. I think that we're going to see a little bit of both. What Kamala Harris knows going into this debate is that she has a couple of things that she has to do. She isn't debating Donald Trump. So bringing that type of utter fire to a Mike Pence, who does not debate in the same way that Donald Trump does, would be a mistake. We know that during all the prep and all the work she's done over the past few weeks, she's actually been, her sparring partner in those prep debates has been former Mayor Pete Buttigieg. And I think that what she's going to do is lean in on policy. This is going to be a policy discussion. Pence is a policy wonk himself. She's going to talk to those suburban voters. She's going to speak directly to women. She's going to talk about race, the elephant in the room that we saw Donald Trump try to run away from when he refused to denounce white supremacists. Right. We're going to see her also lean in on what it means to actually watch a Supreme Court justice come in to totally strip away the ACA with the backdrop of a pandemic. I think that what we're going to see from Kamala Harris is proof positive that she understands policy and that she's ready for this job on day one.
All right, here's a task. We got 20 seconds each. I'm going to take it around the horn. We'll start with Shelby. Your thoughts? You got 20 seconds. What do you want to hear? What will clarify some situation with the left, Kamala Harris, if you hear it?
I think she really will have to focus on how do you balance law and order as a former prosecutor with the civil unrest that you're seeing now. There's a lot of constitutional questions at play there. When do you use federal authority? What is the expectation of your local government? What type of forces, whether financial or otherwise, are you going to use to hold people accountable at your state and local level? And she has to, I think, make a very strong case for where she'll be on criminal justice reform. Okay. Mind you, that was a big issue, yet no one in Congress has done anything with Senator Scott's bill.
Let's keep it to time. Jason, you got 20 seconds. What about Pence?
So I think, well, with Pence, I think he needs to illustrate why Donald Trump is the man for the job, particularly with bringing an economy back. We know that it's been slowed a little bit in the last month in terms of our comeback economically. We know that Joe Biden actually led an economic comeback and put us on the right path as a nation economically. So I think that that's going to be a big issue that I think Mike Pence is going to have to highlight why their side is the right side for that.
Sebastian, 20 seconds. You're on the clock.
Did Jason just say Biden led an economic comeback? He led an economic comeback for his family as one of the most corrupt politicians in American history. I have one suggestion for the vice president. He has to force Kamala Harris to denounce the violence of Antifa and Black Lives Matter that have taken the lives of 30 Americans in the last 5 months. She needs to distance herself from the radical base of the Democrats, but she won't.
Misha, your 20 seconds.
Well, we know that the majority of the Black Lives Matter and George Floyd protests were not violent at all. That's over 94%. That is definitely a fact. And Kamala Harris has also denounced any types of violence following those events that has occurred sporadically. What she has to do tonight, and what I think she will do, is make the argument for what her criminal justice reformist record looks like now, what does it look like in the Senate, and what it will look like going forward into 2020 and beyond. Okay, panel, thank you very much. Every week, we honor first responders who died in the line of duty protecting our country. Patrolman First Class Jacob Hancher with the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina Police Department was shot and killed over the weekend. The 23-year-old was sworn in as a police officer less than a year ago after serving as a department community service officer for 4 years. Officer Hancher is the first Myrtle Beach police officer killed in the line of duty in 18 years. Sergeant Ethan Kaskin with the Anderson, South Carolina Police Department was killed last month when his patrol vehicle was hit head-on by another car. Sergeant Kaskin was with the police department for 12 years and leaves behind his wife, children, and grandchildren. Rest in peace, officers.
America, one nation, from Florida to St. Louis to Seattle. America This Week, America's fastest growing political show, delivers facts, not falsehoods.
Well, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I appreciate the opportunity to clear some of it up.
Hard-edged opinions.
We can no longer rely on China to be the primary producer of so many critical products that we need in a time of crisis.
Tough topic debates.
Has the mainstream media vetted Joe Biden the way they vetted others on the right?
I just believe that all women have the right to speak their truth and that those truths should also be investigated. The end, regardless of what political party they are a part of.
America This Week reveals the topics and issues that pulse throughout America. Fighting COVID-19.
We're working with every single state to be able to detect outbreaks before they spread into the community.
And the path forward.
Getting back to some degree of normality, that will come. We will get over this.
America This Week investigates chaos at the southern border.
Go, 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 go.
The poisoning of America.
It's in the soils, it's in the water, and it's in our blood.
Toxic chemicals linked to multiple cancers found in towns across America.
We were poisoned, and we are still poisoned.
Almost every day, there is a new community that is finding out that their water is contaminated.
America This Week relentlessly seeks the truth on your behalf.
I'm Eric Bolling. Join me for a fascinating look at America This Week.
United we stand, we never fall. This perilous fight, it takes one and all. everyone stands. American strong, strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time.
We stand America strong.
United we stand.
We stand America strong.
United we stand.
There's a lot to discuss this week with the president's coronavirus diagnosis and his return to the White House. Welcome back to our panel. I'll start with you, Sebastian. A lot of people are giving the president a hard time about a quick return from Walter Reed back to the White House. Your thoughts?
I thought I knew this man. I advised him as a private citizen when he was playing old Mr. Trump during the campaign. I worked for him as his strategist in the White House, and now he's appointed me to a Pentagon board. But even I was shocked. This man is an unstoppable force of nature. The fact that he's 74 years old and he only takes 3 days off at Walter Reed Medical Center and then gets back to the White House is stunning. I went to Walter Reed on Saturday, on Sunday. The atmosphere there was electric with his supporters. That man did more in 3 days in his hospital suite Joe Biden did for America in 47 years.
Misha, your thoughts on this? Because a lot of people, they give the president a hard time. If he stayed in the hospital, they would have said he's in bad shape. He comes out early, they say, oh, he's out too early. What are your thoughts?
No, you're absolutely correct. And I think that from a personal perspective, I'm happy that the president was actually able to get out. I'm more bothered by him acting, though, the COVID-19 virus is not serious, him downplaying it over and over again, talking about now how he's felt better than he has in the past 20 years. This is a president who got world-class medical care, a president who is on a cocktail of steroids that, you know, the average American citizen would not have access to, even if they have some of the worst cases of COVID-19. It is frustrating to watch him continually not talk about the importance of mask wearing or social distancing, even after we're watching over 200,000 Americans who have died and more being infected every day. That's the part that bothers me the most. I hope that the president is fine. I hope that his health turns out to be okay, but I cannot forgive him for walking around as though this is the flu or though this is the common cold and everyone can just bounce back, because that's just not the truth.
And Shelby, can the American population get over that is what Misha points out, that for a very long time, President talked about the coronavirus as the flu, and he's also kind of downplayed it almost as a hoax, but now he's stricken with it, a different story. Can they get over that?
Yeah, I think it really depends on where you are in the country. I think a big focus right now also has to be on this balance of people's civil liberties. And I'm glad that the president is healthy. I do think from the very beginning he should have been wearing the mask and lead by example, even though personally I think a lot of this has been overblown. We're supposed to be worrying about lowering the curve so we're not overburdening hospitals. And just because one is sick does not necessarily always mean it turns into something serious. But I do think regardless of where you are, people in Michigan, for example, there was just a court ruling that the governor there has gone too far. You don't just can say, oh, there's an emergency, I can do what I want. And that is what is happening in certain jurisdictions. And then also contemplate that with protest. It's such a serious illness, yet everyone can still protest and riot and peacefully assemble. Yet at the same time, they'll tell certain areas, okay, you can't go to church. I'm going to crack down on certain.
Inconsistent with the administration, administering who has to stay home and who doesn't. Jason, certainly, Misha points out that the president got some cocktail of drugs that were experimental. Some of them were experimental, but he is the commander-in-chief. Certainly, we want the commander-in-chief to have the best care, even if it is experimental. No.
Absolutely. We want the commander-in-chief to get good care, as I want every American to get good care. And of course, by dismantling ACA, which brought 20 million more people health insurance, he's not doing that. He's not taking care of the American people. And I think that that's a problem. Also, his stalling of the negotiations for a relief bill. Lots of people are food insecure. I believe 51 million people right now are food insecure, in part due to this virus. And the president has said, oh, well, I'm going to make this a political issue and talk about it when I have all the leverage after the election. And I think that that's really troubling. That's not putting America first. Also, him telling these lies about the flu and saying that, you know, you get more deaths from the flu than you get from coronavirus, when we know there were 20,000 deaths last year from the flu, from the seasonal flu, and then you get 211,000 from coronavirus. So I think that there are a lot of problematic things that this president has done. He needs to clean up his act. Right. You know, he's got a little bit of time. Get back to the table with Pelosi and Schumer and actually get us a coronavirus relief bill so that people can stop being food insecure.
I agree with you, and I think they're working on that as we speak. We're going to leave it right there. We're going to say thank you to Shelby, to Jason up top, Amisha, and Sebastian Gorka. Thank you all very much. Panel, you're awesome.
Thank you.
There were calls for a boycott when Goya's president and CEO simply praised President Trump. Just another example of the left's cancel culture. Joining me now are President and CEO of Goya Foods, Bob Unanue, and General Manager of Goya Foods Texas, Luz Rosario. Gracias, both of you. Bob, at one point early in the coronavirus pandemic, Goya was some of the only food on the shelves of grocery stores. I think you call it valor, means courage. Tell us about the program, the push.
We were. It's great to be with you, Eric. And I'm here with, as you said, Luz Rosario from Puerto Rico. She worked with us in Puerto Rico back in the day. I won't say how many years ago, but when we opened this facility in Houston, Texas, right along the I-10 corridor to be able to distribute throughout the country, we put up a state-of-the-art factory. We took the best practices of all of our factories around the globe and implemented them in this factory. So also when this happened to be a year short of food. And so what we did was we decided to purchase raw materials and prepare for what we had experienced in the past is a food shortage, if you will. So we had plenty of inventory on hand. And when the COVID hit, the demand was overwhelming. So we started producing day and night. We've always answered the call when in these times of crisis.
Right. Hey, Bob, but let's talk. Just tell me, and the left was saying shut everything down, but you stayed open. Was it a tough decision?
There was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear. And, we addressed our people. We call them La Gran Familia Goya. We've addressed our family and said, hey, this is going to be tough. We want to keep working. We're an essential business. And, again, in all these crises, as an essential business, we've always kept going. And our people said to us, look, if we don't do it, who will? So I tell you, the courage of the people, the passion, the caring to, wanting to answer the call and serve our country, serve our neighbors, we began producing around the clock, and not only for ourselves, not only feeding ourselves, but we were fortunate enough to have all the materials on hand to not only provide for our customers, but also to donate to food banks and in this country and actually around the world.
Yeah. Let me get Luz in here. Luz, you must be very proud of that facility right behind you. That's a Texas facility. Am I correct?
Yes, definitely. Very proud. And I've been in this since the ground up until the operation that we are fully. And as Bob mentioned, our workforce showed their courage during the pandemic. We never stopped working by the country, or on the contrary, we work day and night to provide food, not only for the country, but also to donate.
And Bob, I got about 30 seconds left. Just kind of sum it up for us. How do we stand as a country with food availability?
Well, we're in another short year, but what worries me, concerns me more than anything else, is that we want to shut things down. Senator Biden in 1996 shut down Puerto Rico by taking away incentives on the island, and now they're proposing shutting down the whole country. We cannot raise the white flag. We cannot give up. We have to go forward. The consequences of shutting down are far greater than those who will be harmed by coronavirus. Far greater.
So there it is, folks. That's Bob Unanue and Luz Rosario. They don't only talk the talk, they walk the walk. Thank you very much, and thank you to Goya Foods, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never miss an episode of America This Week. Just set your DVR. And we've got a complete list of times and cities on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com/America Bolling. Our shows and key interviews are also up on YouTube. Search for America This Week and subscribe to our YouTube channel there as well.
United United we stand, we never fall. This perilous fight, it takes one and all. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time.
We stand, America.
United we stand.
We stand, America.
United we stand. Ready to help, ready to serve. It takes everyone with steady nerves. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time.
We stand, America.
United we stand.
We stand, America strong.
City by city, state by state, town by town, stand American great. Everyone stands American strong. When strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time.
We stand, America.
United we stand.
We stand, America
United we stand.
You can watch America This Week wherever you are and wherever you go. Just download the Stir app to your smartphone, Roku, Apple TV, and other devices, and start getting 100% free TV. America This Week airs every Sunday at 9 a.m. and again at midnight on your local Stir City channel. That's Channel 1. That puts every show at your fingertips. Again, 100% free. Well, if we've learned anything from this last week, it's that nothing is off the table in 2020. Before we go, we'd like to extend our thoughts to the President and First Lady for a speedy recovery from COVID-19. President Trump, we're looking forward to seeing you back out on the campaign trail and can't wait to reschedule our town hall with you. Have a great night, everybody.